Bawi niya at humihingi din siya ng paumanhin, no? Apologizes for implicating Senator De Leon.
Former IBP President Domingo Cayosa says Kerwin Espinosa's recantation will have serious implications, not just in the course of Senator Laila de Lima's pending cases.
Ngayon, sinasabi niya kasinungalingan yun, tinakot lang siya. Malaki talaga ang mawawala sa tiwala at bilib ng taong bayan dun sa kaso laban kay Senator De Lima at maaring maniwala sila sa paningin ng iba na politically motivated lang ito para patahimikin siya at ikulong siya para hindi siya makapag-function bilang opposition senador.
The Justice Department is studying whether to file perjury charges against self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa.
Titignan niyan ano ba yung sinabi niya na yan, titignan ano ba ang pwede niya maging liability.
Justice Undersecretary Adrian Sugay said Espinosa's retraction will not affect the drug case filed against the detained senator as he is not a witness to the case.
Whether or not it will affect yung mga kaso against Senator Laila de Lima, I understand na ang statement ng Office of the Prosecutor General dito is that he is not a witness, no, in any of the cases against Senator, pending cases, no, pending criminal cases against Senator Laila de Lima. So under these circumstances, sabi nga nila, no, hindi naman makakaapekto itong naging pahayag or yung recantation, sabi nga ni Mr. Espinosa nung kanyang mga sinabi against Senator Laila de Lima. At least as far as these criminal cases pending against Senator de Lima are concerned.
Five years into her time in detention, the case of opposition Senator Teres with Lima's legal battle, we discuss in this episode of the Chiefs. We will be joined by our guests and the other chiefs when we return. Welcome to the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay and with us online from Manila, Philippines, at the offices of the Philippine Star, Ami Pamintuan, and kasama po natin dito sa Mandaluyong, Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, happy Friday!
Happy Friday.
Happy weekend.
Parating advance ka ng one day, ah.
Weekend na nga, pagkatapos
Okay.
nito.
Okay, pero may trabaho pa tayo. In fact, patunay na may trabaho pa tayo. Ami, ano ba ang inahanda nyo for the front pages tomorrow?
Hindi maghihigpit for Election Day, Alert Level 1 until May 15.
Yes.
Kaya lang, yung mga COVID positive daw hindi papayagang lumabas ng isolation. Yan ang clarification.
Ano ibig sabihin nun?
So pag in-isolate ka sa presinto, pag na-tempon kang may COVID talaga, hindi ka nakapauwi.
Yung iba yata nagtatanong yung mga...
Ibang presinto.
home isolation.
Sorry,
Papayagan.
presinto yun eh.
Nandun pa rin daw yung rules ng IATF sa yung Republic Act, yung mandatory reporting. Hindi pa rin pwedeng umalis kung COVID positive ka. So, hindi makakaboto.
Yeah. But I think another big story, I suppose, yung sinabi ni Dr. Maricar Limpin, yung from the Philippine College of Physicians.
Higpitan yung
She's calling for imposing or reimposing yung quarantine for those incoming travelers because of the danger of the subvariants coming in. Kasi nga may nakalabas-pasok ng BA 2.12.1.
Oo, pero ang malaking dyan is marami tayong makakausap na mga dalubhasa dati. Sinasabi nila parang, I don't know if they necessarily will change their minds. But before that case, they were saying factored in yung possibility because they were saying, hindi lang possibility, ang probability talaga. Tanggapin na makakapasok
It will sooner or later
makakapasok
get here.
talaga, di ba? It's not about keeping it at zero,
Yeah.
but really being prepared for the inevitability.
Yeah. But I think the point of Limpin is so that we were able to detect and monitor kagad instead of having it spread around and then getting us caught flat-footed. So, early detection, kumbaga. Not necessarily prevention Para alam mo na kung may problema.
Pero yun lang nga. Ang punto ko lang. Go ahead,
Diba
Ami.
ang Korea, they're lifting their masking requirement by May.
Saan to?
By,
Korea?
I think, in a few days. Kahit mataas yung cases nila. So, hindi siguro ewan ko kung susundin yung mga doktor natin,
Samantala, abang pinag-uusapan natin ang incoming travel, domestic travel, still packet na packet. Nakita natin ngayon ang Boracay. Talaga namang siksikan na naman sa Boracay. And if past Boracay's are any indication, talagang parami ng parami. Although coming from the Holy Week fiasco, supposedly they have that under control. Bumaba ng konti, but they are asking for an increase in the carrying not the carrying capacity, but in the authorized load for tourists in the island.
Yeah, there was a complaint from DOH and DOT before. I do remember the DOH was saying na dapat may managot doon sa hindi overloading overcrowding sa Boracay nung Holy Week.
But of course, ang kanina nga pinag-uusapan natin, ang malaking balita other than COVID, of course, itong pag-recant. Kahapon pa natin pinag-uusapan ito, pag-recant ni Kerwin Espinosa sa lahat ng mga sinabi niya tungkol kay Leila de Lima. He said that was basically under duress. And he was saying, binabawi niya na. So now, to untangle what all of that means for the case of Senator Leila de Lima, joining us is Attorney Dino de Leon. He is spokesperson and legal counsel for Senator Leila de Lima. Good evening and welcome to the Chiefs, Attorney de Leon.
Good evening, Attorney.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening everyone, and thank you for having us.
Opo, and thank you for having some time for us as well. We'll get straight to the point. Ano pong implications nitong pag-recant ni Kerwin Espinosa sa kaso ni Leila de Lima?
Well, definitely it shows what we've been saying all along is true. And that is Senator Leila de Lima is a victim of political persecution. No? napakalinaw naman mula sa poll na sinasabi namin na walang katotohanan ang mga ipinaratang kay Senator Dino de Leon. And the only reason why she was incarcerated is precisely because she was doing her job as a senator. Kung maalala natin, si Senator Dino de Leon ang kauna-unahang nagpaimbestiga sa malawakang patayan sila ni Rodrigo Duterte. So, nung mga oras na iyon, siya ay pinakulong, and we said right from the very start that all the witnesses are actually coerced and the pieces of evidence are manufactured. Ito lang yung drug case na walang ni isang gramong drugs na ipirepresenta sa korte. Ito lang yung drug trading case na wala ring pera na ipinapakita. In fact, yung mga testigo mismo nagsasabi sa Anti-Money Laundering Council na wala kahit na anong investigation linking Senator Dino de Leon to any wrongdoing. Sinabi rin niya ni General Magalong ng CIDG. Nung siya ay head ng CIDG, wala ni isang intelligence report linking Senator Dino de Leon to any kind of impropriety. No? So manufactured lahat yung mga evidence at nagre-rely ito sa mga testimony ng convicted drug lords.
Okay,
Convicted drug lords or convicted criminals.
Well, Attorney de Leon, like you said, maraming tanong doon sa evidence side, but we still want to focus on the witness side and on the testimony side. Now, wala pong, none of us are lawyers here, so maybe you can explain how easy or how tricky or messy this is going to be, because this is now a counter affidavit by Kerwin Espinosa. So ako as a layman, ang ano ko dyan, but isn't that essentially a sworn statement, basically taking back another sworn statement? How does that work in court? How easy or difficult is it going to be to actually use this recantation to your benefit, to your client's benefit?
Definitely, the burden of proof in criminal cases is proof beyond reasonable doubt. That means na meron ka moral certainty, makakatulog ka sa gabi na meron kang ipinakulong. No? And the burden of proof lies with the prosecution. And the story started sa Congress wherein si Kerwin Espinosa, isa sa mga ginamit nila, at sinabi siya ay drug trader at binigay niya ang kaperahan kay Senator Laila de Lima. No? So magagamit natin yan kasi of course, right now na dahil nag-recant na si Kerwin Espinosa, it shows for a fact the case theory all along na sila ay pinilit. At ang galing mismo kay Kerwin Espinosa yan sa kanyang sworn statement. Sinabi niya, walang katotohanan lahat ng pinaratang kay Senator Laila de Lima. Sinabi niya na the only reason why he did it was because he was under threat and the safety of his family was also at stake. No? So, consistent rin yan with yung anong nangyari doon sa mga ibang witness. Kung maaalala ninyo, si Peter Ko, bago siya nag-testify sa Congress, ay pinagsasaksak fatally 3 days before he was brought to Congress to testify. No? So all of these chain of events lead to one conclusion, and that is the inmates and the convicted criminals used by the administration were actually coerced and forced to testify and manufacture evidence against Senator Laila de Lima.
Pero attorney, hindi ho ba na hindi ba the courts have the presumption that any recantation is basically untrustworthy? In other words, if a witness changed his mind one time, then how can the changing of the mind be trusted to begin with? How does that
well, to
play
begin with, lagi na rin namin sinasabi na na hindi naman credible itong mga witnesses na to, pero pinaniwalaan sila ng Estado. Ngayong pinaniwalaan sila ng Estado, ito na rin same witnesses ang nagsasabi na hindi totoo ang sinasabi against Laila de Lima. Ang mas maganda po dyan is yung recantation niya naman ay hindi nagtuturo doon sa kaso niya. Tandaan natin na sinabi ito ni Kerwin Espinosa sa sarili niyang kaso at hindi naman naapektuhan yung kaso niya. At sinabi nga ng Department of Justice na hindi naman talaga siya witnesses doon sa mga kaso ni Senator Laila de Lima. Nonetheless, kinailangan niyang sabihin ang katotohanan. At ang katotohanan ay inosente si Senator Laila de Lima at hindi nila magigiba yung katotohanan na yun.
Pero ang sinasabi ng gobyerno naman, kaya, first, tinatanong nila bakit daw it took him 5 years to recant, at pangalawa, yung timing daw, mukhang dahil lang tinanggal siya sa witness protection program because of infractions dun sa deal to put him under protection nga. Ano naman masasabi? Kasi sabi ng Malacanang wala naman daw weight, both the Malacanang and the Department of Justice are saying wala naman ng weight sa mga recantation na yan, and the DOJ is planning to, well, is studying whether they should file perjury charges against him.
Well, the DOJ should be reminded kung ano yung role talaga niya. No? Ang role ng DOJ is to make sure that justice is dispensed with properly, not to act as a prosecutor in all instances. And in this particular instance, a political persecutor. So of course, they can claim na walang effect yon. But the facts are clear and the pictures are starting to fall in their proper places. No? Ang malinaw dito, kitang-kita na consistent yung pieces of evidence sa greater picture. And the greater picture is this was a well-orchestrated attempt to silence Laila De Leon and politically persecute her and make sure na siya yung magiging example sa lahat ng mga lalaban sa Duterte administration. Kaya naman siya ay pinatahimik. No? So malinaw kasi yung ano na yan, yung facts na yun. So pwede na sabihin, walang effect yan, nag-recant yan, bakit naman ngayong mga oras lang na ito siya nag-recant na tinanggal siya sa Witness Protection Program? Sino ba dapat ang kailangan katakutan ni Kerwin Espinosa? Hindi ba siya ay nakakulong? Hindi ba siya ay under custody of the administration by the Department of Justice and by the executive branch? So kung tinanggal siya sa Witness Protection Program, sino ang kailangan niyang katakutan? Ang supposedly nagsi-safekeep sa kanya is the executive branch. No? So ibig sabihin yan, hindi lang dahil tinanggal siya sa Witness Protection Program, but rather, at sinabi na rin ni Kerwin Espinosa yon, nagbago na, no? Nakita niya na ito naman talaga ang tamang gawin. Why did it take him 5 years? Because to begin with, he was afraid right from the very start. Kaya nga naman hindi sila makapagsalita. Pero ngayong mga oras na ito na yung ripe time na maisawalat naman talaga ang katotohanan.
Well, 5 years na yung kaso. What's the status ngayon ng trial? Nasa na siya ngayon?
Well, Amy, kung maaalala mo, tatlo yung kaso na ito. Yung isa na dismiss na, grinant yung demurrer to evidence namin. Korte na mismo ang nagsabi, walang ebidensya kay Senator Laila De Lima and we didn't even have to present any evidence. Yung isa doon ay dinenay yung aming demurrer to evidence at nasa Court of Appeals yan. Hindi kami nag-agree dun sa resolution na yan. In the same breath, yung judge na nag-deny ng aming demurrer to evidence ay nag-inhibit afterwards. At 7 judges na ang nag-inhibit sa mga kasong ito. Can you imagine? 7 na ang nag-inhibit sa mga kaso na ito. Kaya nga isang criminal case, hindi umusad ng mahigit 1 taon. Walang hearings. Kasi walang mga judges na ma-appoint dun sa sala na yon. 7 judges have recused themselves. And that is also symptomatic of the fact na mahirap talaga itong kasong to. Hindi biro-biro. At para sa aming intelligence nga rin, syempre nahihirapan yung mga judges kasi katulad nga siguro ng mga nangyayari kala Kerwin Espinosa, katulad rin ng nangyayari kala Peter Ko, their lives they're also being watched very, very closely. That's the reason why 7 judges na nag-inhibit this.
Attorney, pwede bang ibalik ko sa inyo yung tanong na yun? Yung, sabi nyo kasi, can you imagine yung 7? I think we all get the point. But like I said, we're not lawyers, we're not litigants, we have no experience in court. You obviously have had much experience. Can you put that into further context for us? How rare or even how bizarre is yung 7 huwes mismo ang 7 huwes ang nag-inhibit?
Ma-appreciate lang natin yung 7 na yun, no? Kung makikita natin kung ano nga ba yung konteksto ng political persecution na ito. Yung ito ay nagsimula nung sinabi ni President Rodrigo Duterte mismo na he will destroy Laila De Lima in public and he will be willing to do whatever it takes. No? So after that, ibig sabihin, bent na talaga siya on destroying Laila De Lima. And as I mentioned a while ago, Laila De Lima is the example of this administration. So ibig sabihin, dapat kinasuhan na siya, no, nag-try. If you would remember, dapat ang kailangan doon sa prosecution pa lamang ay probable cause. Ang sinabi namin, walang probable cause linking Senator Laila De Lima to drug trading. Umakyat yan hanggang Supreme Court, kung maalala ninyo. At dito sinabi ni Senior Associate Justice Carpio na this is the grossest injustice perpetrated before the Filipino people and the entire world in recent memory. Again, that's from Senior Associate Justice Carpio in his opinion, na penned by him. This is the grossest injustice. No? After nun, bumaba na nga sa korte, nakasuhan si Laila De Lima kasi sinabi may probable cause daw. No? And even the Supreme Court in their opinions vary kung ano ba talaga ang charges kay Laila De Lima. Lahat sila, iba-iba sila ng intindi. Pero nonetheless, that has happened. It went to the courts. And afterwards, trial happened. No? At there were various reasons why judges have been inhibiting themselves or have been leaving the cases. Pero the facts are clear. yung 7 judges na yun, hindi yun biro. Kasi every single time na nag-i-inhibit ang judge, it takes months, if not more than a year in one case for that particular judge to be replaced. For the meantime, hindi umuusad yung kaso at nakakulong si Laila de Lima kasi hindi na-hear ang kanyang bail petition. So talagang well-orchestrated siya to make sure that Laila de Lima will remain in jail and will be silenced and will not be able to fulfill her constitutional mandate as an elected member of the Senate.
Sir, what is your next move with regard to yung recantation ni Karen Espinosa? Are you going to file any pleadings or any motion using that recantation number 165 and 167?
Right now, we are exploring the options available to us. No, definitely, we will defend the interests of our. Definitely, we will defend the interests of our client. No, we will take into consideration whether we can call or consider Kerwin Espinosa as one of our witnesses. No, we may also file manifestations before the various proceedings right now, just to put on record the fact na Kerwin Espinosa, one of the witnesses used against Senator Laila de Lima, has recanted his testimony. Para sa amin, ang mas importante actually is hindi lang kung ano yung next move namin para dun sa kaso na yon, but rather, how do we ferret out the truth? Kung sinasabi ni Kerwin Espinosa, siya ay pinilit, sinong namilit sa kanya? Kung sinasabing siya ay tinakot, paano siya exactly tinakot? Sino yung mga involved dito sa sinister plot against Laila de Lima? This is the greatest frame-up that ever happened in Philippine history. Kailangan natin malaman, ganun ba kadali sa ating justice system na magpakulong ng somebody just because she is getting in the way of the president. No? So yun yung mas mga importante na kailangan natin tanungin at doon kami nakafocus right now and we will exercise the remedies available to us to make sure that we will be able to ferret out the truth.
Pero sir, can you get those answers from Kerwin Espinosa through this court case? I mean, considering that Kerwin is not even involved directly in the case.
We will try, no? You know, we have coercive processes. In fact, sinabi na rin yata ng abogado ni Kerwin Espinosa na if he would be able to secure a subpoena, then he will have to abide by the subpoena and he will testify. But that, of course, largely depends on whether or not we will call him as a witness. Right now, we're still weighing our options, and we would like to encourage similarly situated people na ganyan din, pinilit, na pagsinungalingin at pag-inventohin ng testimony para silaan si Laila de Lima ng mga ibang witnesses, perhaps it's also high time for them to also already come out in the open because we are aware of the fact that Laila de Lima is innocent. We are aware of the fact that the pieces of evidence were actually manufactured. So it's high time for them siguro to also already tell the truth about what really happened.
Nasabi rin ni Senator de Lima na she wants to hold accountable the persons who are responsible for her ordeal. 5 years na to eh. Can you be more specific about that? Ano yung possibilities doon for holding people accountable? Anong criminal charges are possible or whatever charges are possible or legal action?
Nako, napakarami niyan, no? Definitely, malinaw na yung testifying and offering false testimony is punishable, no? The mere fact that you're politically persecuting somebody. Huwag natin kalimutan din na under scrutiny ang Duterte administration by the International Criminal Court and often cited ang case ni Senator Laila de Lima. In fact, the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, yung rapporteurs nila after after investigating the case of Senator Laila de Lima, categorically called for the immediate release of Senator Laila de Lima and said in their opinion na arbitrary ang detention ni Laila de Lima. So we are willing to explore all forums, including international forums, to vindicate the rights of Senator Laila de Lima. Ano sabi ni Senator Laila de Lima, Amy, napatawad niya na yung mga nag-testify against her even though they spread lies because she knew for a fact na sila ay pinilit, sila ay tinakot. Pero hindi ibig sabihin niya, hindi namin ipaglalaban kung ano ang tama at kung anong karapat ang parusang kailangan nila makuha. Dahil Senator Laila de Lima recognizes na yung fight na ito, hindi lang naman niya fight personally. It's the fight of the Filipino people for the justice system. Especially since, as I've mentioned, this is the biggest frame-up that ever happened in Philippine history.
Napatawad niya yung nag-testify. What about yung nag-frame up, as you are saying?
Ay, pag malalaman natin in due course kung sino yan. Though the arc of the moral universe may be long, but it bends towards justice. The moment that we find out, siguro ako na magsasabi, well, hindi naman ako ipagpapatawad, pero hindi madaling patawarin yung mga authors ng sinister plot na ito. Parang wala masyadong konsensya. At ang masakit dito kasi hindi lang yung pinersecute nila si Senator Dino de Leon. Ang masakit dito yung binaboy nila yung justice system natin.
Attorney, linawin ko lang po yung isang sinabi nyo kanina na one thing that's notable is that Kerwin Espinosa is not an interested party dito sa kaso ni Leila de Lima. So that really should go to the point na he has no self-interest here to recant. No? On the other side of this, the DOJ is saying, yeah, but whatever it is, he perjured him. He's committed perjury against his initial statement. But let's assume that he is found to have perjured himself. Any risk on his part or any penalty on his part on the argument of perjury will still only redound to your first point that even then it still just goes to lack of credibility on the things said against Leila de Lima?
Yung sa perjury, that only sinks in if willful ang ginagawa mong pagsisinungaling. Di ba? Pero if you're under the threat of your life's under threat, you cannot really completely say that that is willful. Lalong-lalo na nasa custody ka ng executive branch who's supposedly orchestrating and architecting this plot against this sinister plot against Senator Leila de Lima. So, maintindihan mo rin kung bakit sila na puwersa magsinungaling. On the other hand, right now, wala silang mapapala. Walang mapapala si Kerwin Espinosa. Kung humingi siya ng sorry at sabihin niyang hindi totoo lang ang sinabi niya. In fact, right now, he may even be risking his life. Why? Because he is under the custody of the Department of Justice and the executive branch of government who he is saying ang namilit sa kanya na magsabi ng mga kasinungalingan in the past. Diba? So in terms of weighing the credibility of testimonies, I think that that should be taken into consideration. And yung mga nanakot sa kanya in the past will probably be implicated in the future. No? Yun yung kailangan nating imbestigahan. So, imbis na busy siguro yung Department of Justice na nagdidepensa sa mga ginawa ng mga tauhan nila at siguro yung mga predecessors nila. Siguro, ang mas maganda ay tingnan nila ng mabuti ang katotohanan. Sino ba ang mga piskal na nag-misbehave? Sino nga ba ang mga members ng Department of Justice who probably were behind these invention of stories and manufacturing of pieces of evidence? Yun siguro yung mas maganda nilang tignan kaysa magdepensa sila na magdepensa. Anyway, they are called the Department of Justice and they have a crucial role in the dispensation of justice in this country.
Attorney, kabig tayo ng konti. Kamusta po ba si Senator de Lima?
Kakabisita ko lang po sa kanya noong linggo, no? Alam niyo po, ako po yung spokesperson niya. Ibig sabihin, ako po yung nangangampanya doon sa mga sorties, no? And syempre, medyo meron siyang fear of missing out. Hindi niya alam kung ano nangyayari sa kampanya. So, she lives vicariously through my story. So, dapat every time na pumapasok ako sa kulungan, galingan ko sa pagkikwento. Di ba? Para at least maramdaman niya yung tunay na init na pagtanggap ng tao. She remains to be very hopeful. Her spirit remains to be very indomitable and intact, and she will continue the fight. Pwede naman kasi nakiusap si Senator Leila de Lima, simulat sa pool pa lamang, sabi niya, hindi ko na kaya ito. No? Pero she is made of stern stuff, and she will continue fighting, and she is very hopeful. She never lost hope on the Filipino people's ability to make sure that they will fight for good governance. No? Kaya naniniwala siya na she will be vindicated in due course. Nakikita na nga rin natin yan. At syempre, naniniwala rin siya na pipili ng maayos ang sambayan ng Pilipino dito sa darating na election.
How are you carrying out the campaign? Puro social media ba? Well, apart from, syempre, binabanggit siya sa rallies ng Team Lenny and Kiko. Pero kayo mismo, how are you carrying out the campaign?
Wala tayong commercial. Kita mo naman, wala tayong pera. No? Napakamahal kasi ng TV ads at allergic ang mga donors na dati kay Senator Leila de Lima dahilan nga siya ay pinahirapan at siniraan. No? So what we do is we work very hard. We rely on volunteers. No? May social media, tao sa tao ang pinag-uusapan. Kaya napaka-importante rin yung mga house-to-house. Marami rin ng mga volunteers na nag-house-to-house kay Senator Leila de Lima. Bakit? Kasi kitang-kita naman nila si Senator Leila de Lima nagtrabaho in the last 5 years kahit naman pinahirapan siya ng gusto. She was able to file 700 bills and resolutions, no? And was able to pass laws from behind bars. Kasama dyan yung 4-Piece Act. Kasama dyan yung Magna Carta of the Poor. Kasama dyan yung Senior Citizen Commission Act. Nagtatrabaho si Senator Ryan de Lima from behind prison. And lagi rin siyang merong mga stand sa mga burning issues of the day. So, masipag si Senator Ryan de Lima kahit nasa loob siya ng kulungan. Yan nga yung lagi namin sinasabi. Kaya madali rin naman siyang ibenta sa tao. Hinahanap siya minsan ng mga tao. In fact, sinasabi, nasa na ba si ma'am? Marami pang hindi nakakalam sa storya niya na pinakulong siya ng administrasyon na ito batay sa mga pawang kasinungalingan namang na nakikita na natin ngayon.
Okay. Well, Attorney De Leon, we're almost out of time. Pero sabi nyo nga po, kayo na ang abogado, kayo pa ang spokesperson, kayo pa nangangampanya. We'll give you the final 30 seconds or so to give your final pitch for, not just for Senator De Lima, the detainee, but Senator De Lima, the candidate for senator.
By the way, gusto ko lang sabihin para malinaw. Volunteer po ako Hindi po ako binabayaran para mangampanya. Hindi po ako binabayaran para maging spokesperson. And perhaps you are asking why am I doing this? It's because we know for a fact na the fight is bigger than personalities. I'm advocating for Senator Laila de Lima precisely because I know that she's innocent. And we're fighting for the justice system more than the personality. Sana po, huwag niyong kalimutan si Senator Laila de Lima na ipagdasal. Hindi po madali ang pinagdaanan niya noong nakaraang 5 taon, pero hindi pa rin po siya tumigil para makipaglaban po para sa ating lahat. Nagserbisyo po siya sa loob ng, kahit na po nasa loob siya ng kulungan, ginawa niya pong opisina yung loob ng kulungan. At sana po, huwag niyo pa rin pong kakalimutang ipaglaban ng hustisya. The battle is bigger than Senator Ryan de Lima. The battle is bigger than the personalities involved. No? Ang lagi po natin kailangan ipaglaban siguro yung hustisya. Sapat na po kay Senator Ryan de Lima na maalala niyo siya sa inyong dasal.
Okay. Ang numero po ni Senator De Lima sa balota?
Number 18 po siya sa balota. Ang lagi po namin sinisigaw, ibalik ang hustisya. No? So kung gusto po natin ipaglaban ng hustisya, ang qualification, gusto ko lang po sabihin huling-huli, ang qualification ni Senator Laila de Lima na pag-usapan ng hustisya, hindi lamang siya a bar top notcher, hindi lang siya dating Secretary of Justice, hindi lang siya dating Chairperson ng Commission on Human Rights, bagkus siya ang pinakamalaking biktima ng inhustisya. At kaya nasa poder siya para pag-usapan ko anong dapat gawin sa ating justice system.
Okay, Attorney Dino de Leon, spokesperson and legal counsel for Senator Laila de Lima na tumatakbo po sa pagka-senador number 18 po sa balota. Maraming salamat po, Attorney de Leon.
Maraming salamat po sa opportunity and magandang gabi po sa inyong
Thank you, Attorney.
Magandang gabi po. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. And now joining us is the former Dean of the Ateneo School of Government, Attorney Tony Lavinia, also the lead convener of the Movement Against Disinformation. Dean Lavinia, thank you for joining us and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
evening, Ed. Good evening, Amy.
Hi, sir. Sir, of course, I'm sure you heard we were talking earlier with Attorney Dino about the case of Senator Laila de Lima. Now, of course, we do want to talk about politics, but let me stay first with that topic. What do you think are not just the legal implications, but as well the political implications of Kerwin Espinosa's recantation just a few days before the May elections?
Politically, this was actually good for Senator de Lima kasi headlines, people remember the injustice that was done to her. It's remarkable how she has kept her high spirits. I actually just visited her 2 weeks ago and talagang nothing, hindi siya pessimistic. She thinks actually she can win in these elections, and this particular particular incident that isa sa mga nag-accuse sa kanya ay nag-recant, di ba? We're pretty sure that eventually all of them will recant because there is really no basis naman dito, no? But political, those are the implications, no? That in fact it gave her a boost. It gave her campaign a boost. It's sad, di ba? I mean, it's sad that something terrible as unfair accusation gives someone like Senator de Lima the boost that she needs for the elections. But that's how politics work in this country.
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. For 5 years, she's been demonized, she's been belittled, she's been made fun of in a very scandalous manner. And suddenly you have this. Does this change things in a major way?
Well, legally it does. No? Even if she's not a witness to any of those particular, no, because it tells you the whole context under which the cases against her were filed. You know, there's a case called Broca versus Enrile that the Supreme Court decided right after EDSA, where they said that anytime a prosecution is tainted by politics, a criminal prosecution, it should actually be dismissed, and all processes related to it should be declared invalid. And this is an example. I mean, obviously, Kerwin was coerced on to give false witness against her in the Senate, and that's because of politics. There's no other explanation.
Attorney Lavinia, I wanted to follow through on yung may tanong kanina rin si Ami. I wanted your insights on it. Beyond the case of Leila de Lima, and if we start talking about accountability for how she even got to that position, I mean, how do you begin to structure and to outline what the accountabilities are? Who should be accountable under what kinds of charges?
It's a very good question, Robbie, and you actually have to link that to the International Criminal Court case that the International Criminal Court prosecutor has been building against Duterte, temporarily paused, but was building, which is from the time he was mayor in 2011, the whole, when we were already members of the Rome Treaty. So the investigation timeline for that case is 2011 to 2016, 2018, when we were a member of the ICC. And that's where it all starts. It all starts with Senator de Lima, then chair of the Commission on Human Rights, investigating the killings in Davao. And then when she became a senator, investigating the killings in the country against the war against poverty. So this is really part of this attack on de Lima, aside from being personal, was really part of the suppression of evidence that would soon accumulate against Duterte for crimes against humanity. And so accountability here would lead to us to say, well, why did they do that? It leads to politicians, politicians like Harry Roque, politicians that were part of the group that gang up on her first in the House of Representatives. Some senators of the Senate, they were obviously walking on eggshells there because it was a colleague that they have, but there's accountability also for that. I mean, very interesting. I just read now Manny Pacquiao, presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao, saying, "Bilisan na yan," because you know how bad it is that someone who is innocent, I guess, reacting to the Espinosa recanting. It's bad that someone who is innocent should be in jail for 5 years. But there's accountability in the Senate as well for that. But frankly, the main accountability is with the Department of Justice. In particular, Senator Aguirre then and the prosecutors that handled this case, because there's really, I mean, they haven't built up a case. There's no case against Senator De Lima. The basic, in fact, even if you accept the case that they say they have, it's a case for bribery, right? Remember the story. Even Duterte is always saying that she was trying to raise money. She was raising money from the drug lords, but that's not the case they filed. You know why? Because she would be released. She would not be in prison if they filed bribery, which of course has no basis at all. But they filed, a case of trafficking, of drug pushing, which is ridiculous. I mean, not any one of their witnesses actually said that she's a drug pusher or a drug trafficker. So there's accountability there. Of course, there's accountability in the Supreme Court because process-wise, the Supreme Court could have ordered her release given the flaws of the cases. But the Supreme Court, most of them have already retired from the court. Supreme Court turned a blind eye on the flaw of these cases and use procedural law to say, well, stay there first and have this sorted out by the lower court judges. Lower court judges, I'm sorry, but through the years, also 5 years, have not made progress on this case. Several of them retiring, several of them inhibiting. So what you have is a very ugly, unjust situation where a sitting senator has been in jail for 5 years, not convicted. And now the witness that started it all, in terms of the overall attack, is now recanted and says, I was actually pressured, I was actually coerced.
Anong possible case doon, attorney? Meron bang wrongful prosecution kung sakasakali?
May options naman. I will not telegraph the options for the prosecution. I haven't talked to for the De Lima legal team. I'm actually part of the team, but I've also been busy with other things these last couple of weeks. I haven't met them, and not especially for this. Pero marami namang kasi willful violation of the civil rights of a person. So if not for the politics, in an objective, you can actually hold those people responsible for the injustice done here.
Yes, you have also been a victim of disinformation, and I want to segue to your your movement for disinformation. Kumustahin ko na? How is it going, your programs?
Where it's uphill because there's so much disinformation and we're fighting to relate that disinformation right now. There are others that we'll have to do in the future, but right now it's election disinformation and red tagging, which is related, as you know, because candidates have been red tagged, including by the president himself. So that's really the challenge the challenges that we're trying to address now.
Attorney,
we've developed. So yes.
What are you doing exactly to counter?
We've developed several legal theories that we are now implementing. So for government people, accountability. So therefore, ombudsman cases. You will soon see that we will also be going after media establishments, from the NTC to others that require that require certain type of behavior. And if you're a broadcast company and you are disseminating disinformation, there are ways to go after you. Social media platforms is the most tricky because the regulatory aspects of that is not very clear. They are self-regulation through their community policies. But we've engaged with them, with all of them, from Meta to YouTube to TikTok, and trying to get them simple lang. We want them to implement their community policies, and number one there is falsehoods should not be allowed in their platform. I mean, but that where there are civil or criminal or administrative cases, we will file them even after the election. Some will be filed after the election because the war against disinformation will not end there. The movement against disinformation is heavily legal. There are several law deans there. We really founded that on the basis of accountability and that we want to make a difference using the law. But we also have fact checkers and other groups as well.
Attorney Lavinia, last question na lang po. Disinformation has been around for a long, long time in many forms. But in decades past, or even just a few years past, some of the tools that exist now were not necessarily there. What were there were not necessarily sharpened or weaponized to the point that they are now. When the research is conducted and when history is written about this coming elections in particular and these campaigns over the past 2 years in particular, how seminal will this be as a case study on disinformation?
Oh, it would be very seminal if the election surveys are maintained all the way to the end, and in fact the voters vote according to that. You can squarely say that disinformation played a very big role in getting someone, Bongbong Marcos, let's be very clear about that, to win in these elections. Because they did, I mean, you have to give them credit that they invested on this quite a while ago. At first, even to traditional media or other ways, right? But they found that social media was more effective, right? And it's quite interesting that what you said, that how things have evolved. From what I've seen now, Facebook is not even the best, the vehicle now for disinformation. It's TikTok that's now. It's short videos that's now. Someone described it. I mean, you can have something destroyed or something built up with a single video, and especially the youth, and where the youth vote is very important. So that would be the headline, and the question always is in that history. Then we will have to ask who are the ones that made that possible, and it's not just going to be the politicians. It's the ad people, it's the public relations people, it's the professionals. So that's what I'd actually like to uncover. It's the social media platforms that allowed this to, the good actors here actually are you guys, the traditional media that sometimes have been actually ironically have been attacked quite a lot in social media, are actually the good guys, because you've now become the fact checkers in this. It's just that you're also kind of slow in reacting, and it's the nature, right, of broadcast and even print media in terms of editorial control, in terms of making sure, in fact, fact checking, etc. But we need to all learn how to do things faster. We all need to learn how to do videos better. than those that disseminate false information.
Okay. Attorney Tony Lavinia, maraming salamat po. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
Attorney.
So, I mean,
And that will be all for this edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.